What's going on today, guys? Hope everybody's having a great day. Today it's just going to be me. Mike's got a prior engagement, so it's going to be me on the airways with you. And today's guest, we got Matt Billeaud. So it's an excellent episode. I met Matt at Flip Hacking Live down in Orlando. We had a great time, and I really wanted to bring him on the show because he has a very unique perspective in that he's fairly new to wholesaling. He just started and he's been in it for about a year now, right? And he kind of walks through some of his journey and some of the I guess frustrations and challenges that he's had while wholesaling. And I really wanted to bring that to you guys for those listeners out there who are thinking about doing wholesaling and they kind of want to know, some of those challenges and what to expect within your first year, right? So this is all still fresh in Matt's mind. So he really goes over his journey and again, some of those things that he went through, his mindset, how it worked for him. And I wanted to bring that to you guys. So this is just a great episode, man. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. What is going on, Military Cashflow family? Matt Billeaud, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast with us and sharing your story. Would you please let our audience know just a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing in the real estate space?
Dan, thanks for having me. My name is Matt Billeaud. I live in Louisiana. I'm actually in Southeast Louisiana now. Been living here for about 4 or 5 years. And I've been in the real estate space for just over a year and really enjoying it. When I found out about the investor world of real estate, which a buddy of mine was in this mastermind, he was raising money on Facebook. And out of curiosity, I was kind of looking for some entrepreneurial space. Spent the past 10 years trying to figure out how to start a business. So I called him up and said, "Hey man, what's this thing that you're doing? You're raising money for real estate." And he tells me about this flipping business that he's got. He's flipping 5 or 6, 7 houses at a time. And so I started looking into how could I work with him? How could I invest with him? And I got into, what I wanted to do to invest with him. And then how could I flip houses myself? And then it wasn't exactly what I thought I would be successful at. And then he goes, "Man, you know what you need to do? You need to wholesale properties to me." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" "Go find properties and I'll pay you a fee for the properties." And I was like, "Okay, still, what are you talking about? What's this world about?" And so he started feeding me information, sent me podcasts, sent me videos to watch. And it was boom. I sat down with my wife one day. I came home from lunch early. I was like, "We need to talk." And she just jumped in with me and here I am.
Nice. So you're relatively new to real estate, like at least the investing side. So that's really exciting to me because a lot of our listeners are just now starting to get into real estate, or they might have had very, very limited, limited knowledge about real estate and how to do it. Right. So I love that you're just now getting started so we can take that and kind of brain pick and pick where you are right now and kind of dive into those things. But first, before we get into that, where did your, I guess, journey with money begin? Like, where did your journey with, just real estate, not real estate, just financial awareness? What was that like for you growing up? Because I think that's important to see, that kind of transition.
Yeah. So I come from a middle-class family. We didn't have a bunch of stuff. We didn't have a little bit. We got by. Grew up in a big family. So my dad taught us, save half of every dollar you make. But, we worked jobs as a teenager. And so I didn't save half of every dollar I make. I probably saved 10% of every dollar I make, because who listens to dad? But I never had a large spending habit. I don't borrow money for all the things, but that doesn't mean that you can't get started in real estate. I didn't have, when I got started a year ago, I didn't have a plethora of cash to just throw. I mean, I went and tapped into some deep savings that I had that I didn't consider touchable, and talked to my wife and said, this is what I want to do. We're gonna put this money at risk. We're gonna invest in marketing. We're gonna invest in education, and let's go for it. Because for me, working the W-2 with the changes in the economy, and I was actually losing my job, which is part of the story. We decided to go into real estate, and I bought a ticket to Flip Hacking Live, and the day before Flip Hacking Live, which was, I considered the first day of my official first day of my journey, because right after that, I knew I'd be running. My boss tells me, we got to let you go. And it was, I'd heard that before. That wasn't the first time I was being let go. So it was kind of okay, this is what God wants from me. I'm gonna run with it. Let's do it. And so after Flip Hacking Live, I started putting together the marketing. I started putting together, and then you do it quickly because you don't want to just sit on and work out the little details. You have to put the big details together. And when you put the big details together, the little things only start coming to you when you start working. And so we had to take action if we were going to learn anything useful. And so I spent, 6 months. We got some deals done. We did some deals that were awesome. We did some deals that didn't work out. And we did some deals that we didn't make very much money on, but we took the action. We made offers. We got contracts. We sold contracts. We partnered up. We JV'd. And when I say we, it's my wife and I, but she's actually not in the business. She's just supporting me from behind. She's raising the kids. She's hearing me talk about what I'm doing. And the other part of the we is every person that you come into contact with is a partner of mine. So if I'm talking to you and we may potentially do business, we're a partner, because in order for the relationship to work, in order for him to make money with me or me to make money with him, we have to partner up. So for me, when I say we, it's literally anybody that I might be doing business with as a partner, however short that term might be.
I love that. That's so true, man. And a lot of times we don't consider like the people that we're networking with or the people that we do just really transactions with on a regular as true partners. But I mean, I think you hit it on the head. Like, regardless of how short that transaction is, if we do deals together, likely you're going to do more deals together, and it kind of forms itself into a partnership, right? Right. Now, one thing you've mentioned about several times, you've mentioned like 5 or 6 times already, that I don't want to just let slide by is your wife, right? And the importance of making sure that you have your partner involved in it, regardless if they're truly involved in the business or not, right? You and your wife are a partner. Therefore, you got to make sure it works correctly. How are you navigating that? Because you mentioned a talk that you had with your wife, when you decided to definitely get into real estate and get into wholesaling. How did that talk go? And then also, how do you effectively communicate with your wife to make sure that, she doesn't feel left out, and she understands, what you're doing and why you're doing it?
Well, effectively,
that's a subjective word, right?
It's a subjective word, right? So my when we sat down, she didn't know anything about it. In fact, I had to do Flip Hacking Live because we had a babysitter lined up at one point, but she didn't. That never happened. So I would come home every day because it was a virtual event. I come home every day and I tell her kind of like, okay, this is kind of what I learned, but I didn't want to like push her too much. Like, I'm going crazy. I got all these thoughts going through my mind because at the end of every day, your mind is spinning. And but at the end of it, I called her up and I said, here are the ideas that I have. And it required a lot of commitment financially. It required a lot of commitment time-wise, and a little bit of risk from, what if this doesn't work out? I mean, if you're in the business, you're risking one of two things. You're risking time and or money. And we were doing both. We decided to do both. And I'm so glad we did. But her reaction to me was, I have no idea what you're about to do. I mean, she got the concept, but she didn't know the pros and cons, what it would take to do it. Although I tried to tell her, here's what I'm gonna have to be good at, here's what I'm gonna have to get good at. And she said, just go for it. And that's not everybody gets that reply. But it's still, when it comes to 3 or 4 months down the road and you're still working on your first deal, you're still putting out mailers, you're still going on appointments. And so walking that journey with her, we've had to make a few changes, so the money started coming in, but then whenever the activities that I would take, when I wouldn't do the activities that produce results, well, that's when I stopped getting the results. So there was actually a period where I took a few weeks off sending mailers out. I'm just going to go ahead and focus on the leads that I currently have. The new leads stopped coming in, and so we started to dry up. And you can't do anything but look, point at yourself when you're failing, right? And so we had to make a few changes, and I ended up partnering up with another company a few months ago, and she's still like, keep on pushing, keep on going. It's not easy. I mean, look, I got 6 kids, we have a busy life, and it's an awesome home life, but it's a busy home life. And so the commitment to the business is huge, but the commitment to your family also stays large as well. And so I'm super fortunate to have a wife that's in the journey with me, and always she definitely makes sure that whenever it's business time, I go to work, but I also commit to her. It's like, okay, once the business time is over, I'm probably not as good as her, but because you're always thinking about the business, and that's the struggle that I have. So yeah, I mean, it's not easy. Look, what I'm getting at here is, it's being in a business, being serious about a business. It's just simply not easy. I talk to new people all the time, and they think that they can hire a VA, or that they can just send out some mailers and talk to some people, and they're going to make money hand over fist. And the truth of the matter is, real estate is a very competitive market. Wholesaling, particularly because it has a low level of point of entry. Anybody with a phone and a voice, or you don't even need a voice, you could do it without a voice. I mean, literally anybody with communication can get into real estate, and that's literally what happens. The difference between the people that you're competing against and you is the amount of time and the action that you put into it. You have to give it time, and you have to take the action.
Yeah, man, I'm definitely realizing that myself. So,
yeah,
even with the team, it's a more time intensive than what I originally thought it would be. So we're going to get into wholesaling, the definitions of it, and like how that goes. But I want to focus a little bit more about that risk that you took, right? Because I mean, that's a huge risk. You said you just lost your job, right? And you got your wife, you staying at home, you got 6 kids, right? So some money's got to be coming in. So for you to take this risk, like there had to be like, there had to be like something there that was like, yeah, man, I'm ready to take this risk. Was it all, the support of your wife, or was it like something else, or like, how did that happen? Like, walk us through that. Like, how did that, like,
yeah,
hey, I'm doing it, man. It doesn't matter.
I didn't stay jobless the whole time.
Yeah.
So I worked in oil field. I worked in oil field for 13 years, and I truly loved my job. And the people that I got laid off with, I mean, the company, I mean, it was just a great company, great people. And so they hired me back a few months later with like a 6 or 8 month, I don't remember, but it was 6 or 8 months. Hey, we can take you on 6 or 8 months later, for 6 or 8 months. And then they cut me down to part-time. But at the same time, they were allowing me to kind of do a little bit of real estate, just because they were giving me limited work. And they just like, look, man, we can still pay you, but do these activities and then do whatever you're going to do. So I got super fortunate having a full-time job and able to work my business a little bit while building that business. So I'm not here promoting that you can have a full-time job and be 150% in real estate. As you know, I got fortunate. However, so I did have some income for a little while, and then it cut down, and now that job I'm not working there anymore. But so yeah, it's not. I'm not sure where to go with it from there, but the money still went out very quickly.
Yeah.
You know, you spend money on systems, you spend money on marketing. I mean, and marketing is just, it costs a lot of money. I use direct mailers, and direct mailers cost a lot. And so that money goes out fast. And if you're paying for your education, and depending on the type of education you have, that can cost several $100s a month to several $1,000s a month. And so, yeah, I mean, the risk was, how fast could I get started compared to how fast the money's going out? And for the first 6 months, the money was going out a lot faster than it was coming in. But we had it coming in. We got a few deals closed, and that was kind of always all right. We bought us 3 more months. You know, we bought 3 more months. Every deal, we bought 3 more months. Okay. So yeah, that's I'm not out of it. Right? I'm not making money hand over fist. I'm still in the hunt. I'm a year deep, but you know, if you're in this business and you're working hard, sometimes you're going to think you're crazy. I definitely did. And at one point I told my wife, man, this is crazy. We got to keep going. She says, there's no way you can just stop now. You just invested whatever, 6, 8 months and all this time and education into what you're doing. You can't stop. Oh, man, I married well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you definitely married well, because a lot of wives have been like, no, it's about time to give this up. But that's awesome. You have that support system behind you, and she's willing. She's all about it. But I think that's so important to really highlight, right? So you said you're in it a year. You're not making money over fists yet, man. And a lot of people have this misconception that, like, hey, once I go into business with anything, right, I'm going to be making money my first 2 months, my first 3 months, or my first 6 months. But that's just not how it is, man. It takes so much energy and effort and time that you're putting in, and you're usually not going to see the results that you really want to see for years, usually, right? Like, typically, it's going to take some years. So you have to have like that strong support system behind you that, like, hey, have to have it somehow figured out how you plan to continue to make income to provide for your family and things, right? So I think that's extremely important. And I love that you highlight that, and you're so open and honest about that, right? So let's not sugarcoat it and be like, oh yeah, I mean, I'm doing great and I'm doing awesome as far as like I'm getting deals hand over fist. I mean, that's just not the way it goes, man. We get a lot of people, or we don't get a lot of people. We see a lot of people on the internet, and that's what they're saying. I just started last month, and now I'm making 6 figures all the time. What they're not telling you is that to get to that, that I started last month, to get to that closing the deal last month, it took sometimes years of preparation to get to that point, years of time, education, money, like all these things, right? So I think that's key. Wholesaling, right? Can you give us a brief overview, a brief 10,000, foot level of what wholesaling is, and kind of just some brief details about it?
Wholesaling is a specific skill set of finding deals for real estate investors, the people that are going to be the end buyer of the product that you find. And what we do is we go out, we look for motivated sellers of real estate, and buy their and contract their properties to buy, and then sell the contract to the end buyer of the product. And that person, usually the end buyer, will be someone who's flipping houses. There'll be somebody who is going to rent the property. They might wholesale it, which is a little bit like flipping. And I think that's pretty much it. But so the skill set of wholesaling is its own skill set in and of itself. People that do one don't usually do the other because it's very different businesses.
Yeah, man, that's definitely true, man. Speaking from a buy and hold guy and then trying to jump into wholesale, as you guys know, if you're listening, I started wholesaling. I met Matt at Flip Hacking Live, where I started kind of my wholesaling journey. I think you went to Flip Hacking a couple times, that event a couple times, but yeah, it's definitely a different business, different skill sets. Yeah, there's some commonalities as far as some of the terms and things like that, and it helps, I guess, being a little understanding buy and hold and understanding renovations and stuff. But it's definitely a different business set, a different business type, and it takes different skills. So I definitely agree with you there. So can you kind of give us a quick step-by-step, like, all right, what you're doing in the space right now? Understanding you mentioned mailers and you mentioned a few other things that our listeners might not know exactly what that is. Can you kind of walk us through that process?
Yeah. So when probably about 3 or 4 or 5 months ago, I recognized, okay, I had lost my job. I had gone down from part-time to full-time, from full-time to part-time on my job. And the money wasn't, it just like, man, I was spinning my wheels. And so what I did was I was, at the time I had done 3 deals. I had spent about 30% of the money I received as revenue in marketing alone, and then a little bit more in systems. And what I was doing, I was sending 1,000 mailers every week, about 3 weeks a month. And that allowed me to work those, I had a good flow with that amount. I was getting working the leads, getting the calls, and I was getting help. I was in a mastermind. I'm going through the flow, and it just something wasn't clicking for me. And I wasn't bringing in, I wasn't winning at a level that I felt that I should be winning at the time. And I knew I needed to make some changes. And so I went and I started thinking about how could I learn this business faster and be more successful, and while I'm learning, make money. So I partnered up with someone who is already in this business, already working inside of a high development business, highly motivated, and truly a teamwork. And so I went and partnered up with Adam Whitney, and Adam is a beast. The guy is working full time in the Marines. The guy just got promoted in the Marines, and he's a CEO working with a team of 15 people, and somehow still operating as a highly effective leader. And so when I noticed, okay, that guy, I need to get on his team. And so I just said, I basically, I had to do some hard selling. It's like, I can do your dispo. And he wasn't responsive to me. It's like, okay, well, look, if I'm going to do dispo sales, I'm going to go in and I'm going to chase this guy down. And it was a hard sale, but if you're going to do dispo, you're going to be in sales, you might as well sell yourself, right? And so he eventually agreed, and now we've got a really great. I'm working in a great team. Dispo's working well. We're doing deals, and being inside of a business that's very successful, watching the things that happen in there. And you said it earlier, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm the man. I can do this. I can do that. It's like even people that are very successful, they have their struggles. And you see that in the business, it's their attitude and what they do that changes it. And so I'm learning from that. That's my mastermind now. Like I'm in it, and I'm seeing what's happening. So, later down the road, I'm going to do this for a little while. Later down the road, I'm going to I'll change my gears later down the road. But right now, I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to learn. I'm going to take action. And I still do my own deals as well. I'm in the marketing. I'm sending out my mailers. I've still got my own systems together. I'm still following up with leads and still signing contracts for myself, as well as with my partner.
Yeah, so Adam's been on the team, or Adam's been on the podcast twice already. Adam Whitney, if you guys don't know who Adam is an excellent individual. He's helped me out with my with our wholesaling side as well. So definitely go look up either two of those episodes. He talks we talk in detail wholesaling the second time he comes on. So it's a really great guy. But yeah, man, that's awesome. So what you did basically, if I had to synopsize it, is you were like, hey, something's not clicking for me, right? How can I find someone who is in my space that is doing great and possibly partnering with them, add value to them, and then in return, I can maybe kind of refine my systems a little bit and maybe, figure out what that it factor is that I'm missing and then apply that to my business. And essentially it seems like that's what you did with Blackjack, with Adam's team. Like, hey, Adam, this is what I can do for you. I can come on and I can help you with disposition. For our listeners out there, there's kind of three sides of the wholesaling. There's lead generation, where you're generating the actual leads, like sending out the mailers and or cold calling people. There's your acquisitions team, which is pretty much following up with the leads that are getting the deal under contract, essentially. And then there's the disposition side, which means you are selling the contract, getting rid of the contract. That's where you're working with the sellers and things like that. So you come up to Adam, you're like, hey, I can find people to buy your deals. I can get rid of your deals for you, essentially, right?
That's right.
And I, this is what I can do for you. And in return, I just want to be a part of the team, kind of learn and see what you guys are doing. But you're providing value and you're also getting some value out of it as well. That's definitely a key factor in a lot of people's story that becomes successful, right? If you listen to past episodes, we've had several people that did just that they find someone who is an awesome person in their market, whatever field they want to go with. They align themselves with that person, provide value to them, and then in return, after a year or 2 years or whatever the time is, they're able to take and then understand those systems and use those and apply them to their own business. That's phenomenal, man. That's textbook, man. Textbook value add, dude.
The value add that you talked about there, Dan, is the super important part. The important part that people forget about. People come to you and they ask for help, but you've got to offer something to them if you're going to ask them for help. And so we give a little bit of time to people that don't have anything to offer because they're super new, or you haven't recognized it yet. So you always try to reach out and help others. But if you really want someone to truly dig deep into you, if you provide something to them, they will spend a tremendous amount of time helping you. And that's what I offer to others. And that's what people like Adam and these other people that I'll call them partners. That's what they do for me. Everybody is a partner.
Excellent. It's a team building effort, man. And just like you said, wholesaling especially has such a low barrier of entry that, you really need to find these people that are doing great things. I mean, if you go at it alone, yeah, you might do a deal here or there. But unless you join a team and you kind of align yourselves and see what that, just like, like Matt talked about, what that missing piece of your function is, then it's going to take, it's going to take a long time for you to really transact a deal. And, it's crazy that you're saying that. And it's like, you're speaking directly to me because, I've been doing wholesaling now for almost a month now. Right. And there's something that I feel like there's something that's just missing, man. There's something that's just missing. And now you got me like reevaluating, like, I need to go back and talk to my team and figure out, like maybe there's something, someone that we can possibly align with, or something that, we can do to figure out, pay for consulting something, right? Like, because I mean, it's only been a month to be fair, but still, you get that, like, I don't know, you kind of get that itch. Exactly. Right. So
it doesn't go away. I'm people are like, how's your business doing? And I'm I'm super transparent. I'm sometimes I consider myself a little bit too transparent because I'm going, do people think that I'm just not doing anything? Do they think I'm just a complete failure because I'm self-deprecating, which is not a good quality to have. But here's the thing. Every every day in this business, there feels like there's something missing, because when you fix one system, something else is bottlenecking. Something is always going to be bottlenecking. It's never going to be a free flowing flow of revenue running through your business. That's just happening because everything's just working out tremendously. There's always going to be a bottleneck. Even if your bottleneck works very well, it's going to be your bottleneck. And that little tweak, you're looking for that little tweak. Lead generation's not doing great, right? So you get lead generation to flow better, generation flowing better. You better have your acquisitions team ready for the leads. If your lead generation's coming up and your lead additions, it doesn't have to be a team member. It could be a process. It could be how are we talking to people. It could be coaching. It could be coaching yourself if you're also in the acquisition side of it. Once you get that going, your dispositions team better be working well too. And then your transactions coordinator, if you have one, better be on top of it. And if you're the CEO of your company, you're responsible for everything. So you put your energy where the energy needs the most, but you always have a little bit of a hand in everything. And so always looking for that tweak, and that search never goes away. That's part of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, man, you're right on, dude. You're right on. So let's give the audience some of the goods, man. Let's walk through, ideally, right? Let's walk through how this works. I have a contract. I got one of your mailers. For those of you who don't know, you send out. Well, how do you even do that? I have a property and I'm in your area. How do you even get in contact with me? And I'm in a distressed situation. I have a property that I just inherited that I don't want, that's, half of it's burnt down or something like that. How do you even get in contact with me? And then let's walk through the process just to really, operationalize how this works for our listeners.
So the process is really a discovery process. If you're going to win a contract from someone, they have to feel that you're helping them. They're not going to just throw out their real estate at you and say, yeah, go ahead and just make as much money as you can with it. They have a problem to solve. That's why they're motivated. You're looking for motivated real estate owners that want to sell. And most usually they will tell you that they want to sell. They don't need to sell, but deep inside, they're calling you, or they're answering your mail, or they're answering their phone call, and they're giving you attention because there's something motivating them. What that motivation is, it might be that they have a really great, nice house sitting on top of a hill that's worth $500,000 and they don't really need to sell it. They're not motivated enough. But you need someone who's motivated enough. And so you search to find out what is their pain point, and you address that pain point.
So let's say I'm that dude right now, and I just inherited a property that the roof is burnt and they're making me pay property taxes, and I got the city like up my behind, like trying to get it fixed. But I just inherited this thing. I don't want it, right?
Right.
So let's walk through that. Let's do a little bit of role playing, man.
Oh gosh, role play. Okay.
This is the good right here. This is the good stuff.
So Dan, you've gone through all of your house. It sounds like your house has got a roof on it. It needs a lot of work. So since your house's roof is no longer functioning since of the fire, now you've got probably mold in it. The electrical needs to be pulled. The plumbing is going to have to be redone if that's been damaged. The entire new flooring, new walls, and the mold remediation is always expensive. Do you have any idea of how much that would cost? And then you go through.
No, I don't have. I have no idea how much it's going to cost, but I know it's going to be more than what I have.
Yeah. So this is what we specialize in. I specialize in handling these types of properties and helping somebody like you offload that property at a number that works for us and one that works for you. And so we walk through that process of discovery, and that may take several phone calls. It needs to be, that conversation needs to be about the seller and about how you can help them, and they're going to have to earn trust from you. I've never had someone just throw their deal. Well, the people that wanted to just throw their deal at me didn't have one because they wanted too much. They just wanted to, hey, yeah, come on over, make an offer. I'm definitely motivated. I want to get rid of my house. And then you go through that discovery process and you find out they want more than the house will ever sell for on the real estate market. But So when you go through that process, you get the contract, and and getting to that contract is a very small part of it. I mean, that you're only halfway there, and you have to turn that contract around into a profit. You've got to find someone quickly that can buy that property. So the pricing of that, the negotiation of acquiring the deal is extremely important. You have to be able to work with people very well. That's an awesome skill set. But you also have to understand what it's going to cost to fix the property. What is the profit that you can make on this property? What is the profit that someone who's going to acquire this? What's the type of buyer that's going to take this property down? Is the person going to wholesale it? Is the person going to flip it? Are they going to rent it? How much money do you think they're going to want to make? Is this really going to cash flow? Is it a flood zone? I mean, there's a lot of different questions that you have to understand in order to properly negotiate it. So the skill set of understanding that is also important. Once you've got the contract, now you've got to turn it over to somebody and you've got to market it. Now, you're always looking for people to buy houses because people, even buyers, their situation changes. They slow down their business. They step out for a few months. They go back in. The new people are always entering the business. And so there's 1,000 steps, which I won't go through them, but you can go into, let's say you've already got a buyer's list. You have to put that out to your buyers, and your buyers either show interest or they don't. And I've had both. I've had people chase me down to get a deal, and I got more money than we were asking for on a deal. And I've had people with crickets, and you've got to go hunt for somebody. And I've had it where I've got properties that are fantastic deals, and because of my marketing that failed, I had to go hunt somebody down. And when the people that saw the property understood, when they really dig deep into the deals, this eggshell of a property that was a piece of junk had extremely high ARV, but the pictures make it look like a piece of garbage. And let's face it, wholesalers are notorious for putting out non-deals out in the market. And so when you put out something, make sure that you really have a deal, because you want your reputation to show that, hey, when Matt or when Dan or Joe Bob, when he puts out a deal, he might actually have one. It's not always going to be a winner, but you definitely want your buyers that you have relationships with to understand that you are very serious and that you are trying to provide them a good service. And so, but you're going to have wins and you're going to have losses in that department.
Yeah, that's key, man. And I love how you went over that process. So you started with it. Hey, you got to you're sending out the mailers, you're sending out whatever your marketing channel is, whether it's calling or sending out the mailer. But at the end of the day, you're providing value through solving a problem for the person that has the property, right? So you're solving a problem for them. And then you negotiate. You got to understand what the repairs or what value that property can bring to your end buyer, right? Through how much work does it actually need? What needs to happen with the property? What type of buyer is this deal even suited for, right? So you're doing a lot of analysis that way. And I think that portion right there, the underwriting of the deal, is where wholesalers get a bad name. And you mentioned it yourself. A lot of wholesalers are putting out stuff that is not even a deal at all, right? Like they're just kind of throwing them out there, like hoping something sticks. But then that kind of ruins, sullies your reputation as a wholesaler. Like, I'm not going to look at any more of Matt's deals because, they're never even deals, right? Like they're always upside down. Exactly. So I think that's key, how the underwriting portion of it, at least how you look at it, like, hey, how much does this need? How much can I sell it for to at least make some profit off of? How can I provide value to both the seller and the buyer, right? And then obviously make a little bit of money in between. So yeah, man, I love how you kind of broke that down. Definitely. And so went over the wholesaling process. Can you kind of, I guess, just go over what your first deal was like? Because I mean, we know that you did it for a year. You said you did a couple of deals. what did that look like? And like, what did that do for you? How long did it take? How did you find that lead? Like, what did the negotiation look like? Just kind of give us a once over the world with that really quick.
Yeah. So my first contract was it wasn't a deal. I contracted a house at 16,000. It was at maybe $20,000, and I tried to get it at 23,000, and it wasn't a deal. It was in a really bad shape. There were actually people living in this house, but it was in a lower end neighborhood. And as soon as I got that contract, I got another contract. It was another house that was vacant, $5,000 contract. It was absolutely a deal. And in the same week, I discovered that the first contract that I had was not a deal, and it just made me I was just like not happy about it at all. Just, gosh, man, I can't believe I let that lady down. I felt really bad about it. And then the other seller called me and said, hey, look, I'm not ready to sell my house. The house belonged to my mom, and I just don't want to do it. And I had just found a buyer. And so she still hasn't sold her house. I still follow up with her a year later. But it took me so that was 2 months into my business. It took me an additional 2 months to find my next deal. And I got that contract signed, and I signed it a little bit high, but I had a great relationship with the seller. And I brought in a partner because I was having trouble figuring out who would take it. It was a kind of anomaly of a house. It would take a special buyer for this deal. And I knew that when I signed it. So I brought in someone who was more experienced wholesaling in the area, who had a better, stronger buyers list than I had. I said, let's do this deal together. So we went through it. I had to renegotiate the deal once, but we found a buyer, and my partner made 4,300. I made 4,300, and I got my first deal closed. It was 4.5 months, approximately maybe 4.5 months after I started my business. But the thing that I was after at the time was, I just got to get my first deal done, because it's so incredibly important for my confidence level, for my proof of concept, so that my wife sees that there's something coming in and we're not just have money coming out. All of that, it was so important. And renegotiating negotiating is nerve-wracking, especially when you start it out. But renegotiating is also a delicate piece. And when you're doing it for the first time, you're not always sure you're doing it right if it's your first truly like sales position. So yeah, I mean, we definitely had those things that you do for the first time are the things that are going to push you to the edge of your confidence and your abilities. But once you get better at it, then you're getting better at something else. So
you got it done, man. So basically, you went and you JV for your first deal. You went and you did a joint venture, and right. That's another common thing that I'm seeing a lot of wholesalers do as well. Is, hey, especially if it's in a different market, right? Because there's a lot of people that are doing like virtual wholesaling. One way they easily get into a new market that they don't know is just by JVing with someone. And what that is you take your deal and you're like, hey, I got a deal under contract. Now I got to figure out how to get rid of it, or how to sell it, right? And what they'll do is they'll reach out to a wholesaler in that area or in your area, and basically present the deal. Hey, do you have a buyer? I have a lead. Do you have a buyer? Let's do it together, and then we can split the profits, essentially, or however you work that. But that's a great way to do it, and it's really interesting. I love hearing this whole your thought process and how you're doing things. Because like I said, like I'm brand new too. So you're about 9 months, well, about 11 months ahead of me. Right. So it's interesting to hear that. And I love that it's still so fresh, in your mind, that you can actually recall some of those like finer details. Right. So that's awesome, man. So just kind of wrapping up a little bit, right? Again, it's all fresh in your mind right now. You're still you're still getting those systems together and figuring out what's going to really work for you, right? What is one piece of advice you'd have for someone that is in that space and they're like, man, I realize something is not there yet. I'm missing something. What's one piece of advice you have for a person in that space to help them kind of push them through?
Never stop learning, never stop taking the action, because when you're working, here's the thing, a lot of people get caught in that analysis paralysis stuff. You're going to go read books, you're going to watch YouTube videos, you're going to listen to podcasts, and you're just going to get it all figured out before you start doing the business. That way you don't make any mistakes. Well, that's impossible. You can't learn what you need to know without taking the action. And you're going to have to make some mistakes. You're just going to have to own on that. And you don't know the right questions to ask unless you're in the hunt, because you haven't identified your weak points. You just have identified your expectations. So you don't know what's going to happen. You just know what you expect to happen. And when it doesn't happen the way you thought it was, you have to take that information and say, how do I learn how to deal with this problem that we have? Small, little, tiny differences will be small problems, and how you deal with them will be very important to you making money in any business. It's the differences, the little things that you do in relationships and in processes and handling money that are going to be the difference in whether or not you're successful in what you're trying to do. So take action, and that's how you're going to learn. But you still have to go in and do the podcasts and listen to them and watch YouTube videos on it and listen and read books. But you do that at a particular time when you're not taking action. So yeah.
That's a key. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because you're right. Analysis paralysis is real, man. Like you can get stuck in reading all the books and listen to all the podcasts and YouTube channel. Now, while that is necessary, right? The length of time in which you do it is the part that gets people caught up. So at a certain point, you got to go actually take that leap, jump into the water and figure out how to swim. Right. So I think that's definitely key. Excellent point. How can our listeners get in contact with you?
You can email me at Matt L. Well, we're not going to butcher my name there. Look, Instagram, Matt B Invest. It's at Matt B Invest, and that's the best spot. I mean, I like Instagram a lot more than Facebook, but Matt Billeaud is on Facebook. But my name's Matt. Let's see, Billeaud. But Instagram's really the best way to do it. So.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll put all your contacts below, so we can reach out to you. And if we got a deal, I didn't even ask you, what specific market are you in?
So I'm in the Southeast Louisiana market, just north of New Orleans.
Okay.
I'm in with my partners at Blackjack. We're in Nashville, Chattanooga, Tampa, Lakeland, Pensacola, and who knows where we're going next. We're taking over the world.
Worldwide. Hey, so if you're in any of those markets, right, and you're trying to figure out how you can get into wholesaling, and reach out to Matt Billeaud, man. And they can definitely help you out. So hey, Matt, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate you, man. You dropped a lot of information, and I love, again, that it's still so fresh in your mind. You're fairly new at it, and you're willing to come on and be open and honest and like kind of really explain the situation for what it is. And I really appreciate that, dude.
Thanks, Dan. I had a good time.
All right, man. If you're listening to this on podcast, make sure you leave us a review. We really appreciate those. If you are on YouTube and you're watching our beautiful faces here, leave us a comment below, hit the notification bell, hit the share button, and hit the like button. We really appreciate that. Other than that, this is Dan Wynn signing off.